The sudden death of former Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has surprised many in China. CNA's Minmin looks at Mr. Li's legacy and how he's being remembered in the world's second largest economy.
Just 7 months after stepping down from office, Mr. Li's death on Friday morning sent shockwaves throughout the nation.
讲的有点不可思议，反正看到新闻我很难受的，我真难受。我当时就讲是真的是假的，
很悲痛，非常震惊，怎么他那么年轻哦还，对吧？因为他这个总理真的是很好的总理啊，为老百姓着想的。
我心里很难过，因为我觉得我一直很佩服他，我觉得他是一个学者型的那个就是总理，而且结果的能力没讲啊，能力蛮强的。我觉得我很悲痛的，怎么这么年轻就没有了？我就觉得对我们国家都是一个非常大的损失。我希望他一路走好。
Mr. Li, widely seen as a protege of President Xi's predecessor Hu Jintao, was once a contender for the country's top job. But he was edged out by Mr. Xi and ended up becoming premier in 2013. Some analysts say Mr. Li is the weakest premier China has seen since the Communist Party took power in 1949. They say that's because his decision-making power was largely taken away by President Xi, who appointed himself to head a party commission overseeing economic reforms.
There's a lot of speculation around whether Li's death was natural. Of course, it's a shock, right? He's relatively young and it's kind of quite quick. But the fact that there is this sort of speculation that is going around suggests that the lack of transparency, opacity even of the PRC system creates a lot of room for doubt. And the current disappearances of top leaders in the PRC creates a sense of uncertainty that Li's death has added to. There's no reason to believe at this point any of these theories, but the fact that they exist certainly fits within a certain mood of the times.
Mr. Li is a trained economist who graduated from the prestigious Peking University following the end of the Cultural Revolution. Unlike many of his peers, he wasn't a princeling hailing from a prominent political family. Instead, he was the son of a local official from impoverished Anhui province. But he rose up the ranks through the Communist Youth League, a rival faction of President Xi's.
He was very much in line with the reformist outlook of his predecessor and consistently pushing for China to open up for international investors, economic relations with foreign countries, particularly with the West.
In his decade as premier, Mr. Li steered the world's second-largest economy through multiple headwinds, including a trade war with the US, growing government debt and unemployment, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. Observers say Mr. Li's time in office is associated with the stability he brought to the economy. He backed efforts to boost employment and support the private sector, but he was seen as having a divergent policy stance from President Xi, who sought to tighten party control over the economy.
Keeping the economy sort of going is one thing, but certainly he's been very much overshadowed by the role that General Secretary Xi Jinping has played, meaning to say that when Xi pushed forward efforts to clamp down on big tech in China, efforts to deal with quite harshly with property developers with debt and all that, which seemed to be associated with Xi rather than Li. Li was unable to moderate some of those effects.
In his last year in office as premier, Mr. Li warned about the challenges to China's economy amid harsh COVID lockdowns, but was seen as unable to do much to influence COVID policies. Analysts say the death of Mr. Li, a liberal reformist, along with the unceremonious exit of former President Hu Jintao during the party congress last year, marks the diminishing voices of divergence within the top Chinese party leadership.
As a senior CCP member, he still, I think, was a figure who had some sway on some of the longer-term directions and was seen as perhaps a prominent voice of moderation that I think is now absent within the CCP. You don't associate anybody else in the CCP with the same degree of prominence that has a similar outlook, right, of being more reformist, being more moderate.
As of Friday afternoon, flags in the country are not yet flown at half-mast. But that's not without precedent. In 2019, following the death of former Premier Li Keqiang, flags were only flown at half-mast a week later during his funeral. No details are given so far, but it's expected that Mr. Li's funeral will be held in Beijing. Minmin, CNA, Shanghai.
For more, Dr. Lim Tai Wei joins us live from Tokyo. He's an adjunct senior research fellow at the National University of Singapore. Dr. Lim, we just heard from my colleague Minmin in that report there. The passing of Mr. Li could mark a further diminishing of voices of divergence within Chinese leadership. I'll couple that with anecdotal accounts today of reports, videos, and comments potentially, or they are anecdotally being blocked on China's social media. Does that suggest extra sensitivity in how the Chinese government is handling this particular matter, or is this par for the course in how it generally handles matters like these passing of leaders past and present?
Well, it is a consistent systemic feature because in the Chinese system, any matters or any information regarding the top leaders, especially when it comes to the conditions of their health and also departure, are considered matters of national security. Therefore, it is not unusual that they are being cautious about informational release. What we do know has been reported officially about the cause of his passing away, and we would probably need to wait for more information to come out. But at the current moment, it appears that the departure has been recorded officially, and that they are planning for the post-departure, either wake, funeral, or some symbolic event that will mark the passing of an elite leader.
All right, Dr. Lim, I suppose we all remember in 2013 his first cabinet meeting or the State Council meeting when Mr. Li called for all ministries to solidly advance reform. Now, rhetoric aside, all leaders call for reform. There was expectation that we would see significant reform, moderation in certain areas. And some might suggest we have not seen it since 2013. Hence the disappointment and the suggestion that he might have been curtailed. But you would not agree with that.
Well, Mr. Li is a professional economist, and he's also well known for his reformist outlook. So in that part, he is sort of remembered as having that image and also having that role. At the same time, he's also the head of the State Council. So he has, rather behaved as a consistent technocrat or bureaucrat for the country and the system. And so as the head of the State Council and also as the Premier, he acted faithfully to implement the policies and political decisions of the Politburo, especially the Politburo Standing Committee, the PSC, and especially the elite leaders within the PSC. And given since 2013...
He was on the Standing Committee. He was technically, nominally, number 2 on the Standing Committee of the Politburo Standing Committee. So he was not just a man who executed policy. He could have decided policy as well. So he could have, or he might have had a bigger role to play. You would not argue that?
Well, indeed, he was the number 2 within the Politburo Standing Committee. But at the same time, it was at a time when China was transitioning and made a decision to move towards a highly centralized system that is centered on a core leader. And so in that sense, he is acting faithfully in this system that has been in place since 2013, when China shifted from a collective leadership to a core leader system. And in that sense, he has executed the policies and the political decisions of his country and the party, the elite members of the party faithfully. And in that sense, he is through and through a technocrat who has acted on the political decisions made at the Politburo Standing Committee.
So as a technocrat,
and
then,
as a
all right, pardon me for cutting in. So as a technocrat, it would not be fair to compare him with, say, Zhu Rongji under Jiang Zemin or Wen Jiabao under Hu Jintao. So your assessment is, for what he could do and should do, he did do, and in your estimation, eminently well. Final question.
Indeed, he was acting functionally in his role. And it would not be exactly possible to compare it with previous administration, because the environmental conditions were very different. When former Premier Li took over, China was maturing as a major economy. And on his watch, China actually transitioned out of, according to Chinese data and informational release, out of absolute poverty. And at the same time, China was embarking on a very ambitious foreign diplomatic economic policy that was formulated and headed by President Xi Jinping, which was the Belt and Road Initiative, of which the 10th anniversary had just been celebrated. And under his watch, under Mr. Li's watch, the BRI has actually expanded from countries, selected countries within what is so-called associated with the ancient Silk Road and Maritime Silk Road, to a truly global system. So in that way, the environmental conditions are very much different.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us this evening, Dr. Lim Tai-wei, Keqiang Senior Research Fellow at the National University of Singapore.